Look, I've read a few books in my time, and I've enjoyed them immensely, but I find a lot of books don't talk about topics or ideas that I find particularly interesting. I think it's just books follow this pattern nowadays of what they think are worth talking about. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of the same tropes being used again and again and again. Like, how many times is someone going to turn out to be this beast? And better question here, how many times is the human going to fall for said beast? Basically, I want to see something new, and I'm not talking about another James Patterson book. I want to preface this by saying that I know some of these ideas have been done. I mean, there's millions of books. Of course, it's been done. It's more of the idea that I don't see them enough, or I don't see them performed well. The first idea or topic I have that I feel like should be covered more is the emotion anger. And I'm not talking about like, oh no, I dropped my cereal on the ground and there's no more milk left. I'm talking about the build of rage within a character over time. We see characters get upset, but it doesn't feel like a realistic interpretation, or it really like comes and goes just like that. I'm going to be presumptuous here and assume that you've probably been angry before, and you probably know that anger can most definitely linger sometimes. And I think that's what makes the emotion so interesting to cover, because not only is it already a strong emotion, but it has the ability to be all-consuming. One thing I've described on this channel before is how love is one of the most raw emotions that I feel like humans have. But being rageful is just as much, in my opinion. It reveals what we really care about and what's important to the character. It also represents itself in different ways. It can be passive, or it can be direct and confrontational. Being mad is not a simple thing, and I feel like books need to cover it more in depth. Not only that, I feel like this is one of those topics that can be the center of a novel. Give me a literary fiction that makes me feel the heat off the pages. I want this book to piss me off in like a good way. I will say a book that gave me this kind of feeling is Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. I don't really know how to pronounce that guy's name, to be honest with you. Now, it's not the main focus of the book, but it's definitely present within it. It's more used as an idea to talk about the idea of overconsumption in society. Kind of similar to how a corn dog is on a stick. Sometimes you need a vessel to get the message across. The next idea I have, or really character trait that I have, comes from my love of Perks of Being a Wallflower. And I bet you don't know what I'm going to say. It's being a wallflower, or at least an observant and aware person. Now, I'm not saying I want more characters like Charlie, because there's only one Charlie. Don't be dumb. I'm also not saying they're an all-seeing God who's capable of literally figuring out anyone's motive or behavior or issues just by looking at them. I'm talking about a character who goes through the story in a way where they can deduce how people feel and what they want from people, their actual motives, in a realistic way. See, is it just me, or do characters feel really dumb sometimes? Red Riding Hood will see that their grandma decided to cosplay as a furry and still continue to get closer to them. Like, girl. Anyways, my point is, a lot of characters seem very oblivious nowadays. And I think people need to capitalize on the idea of wallflowers more. There's this like perfect medium where you're not like Sherlock Holmes, but you're also not like an average people watcher. I'd also like to point out that I want this person to understand what they are seeing. A problem for Charlie in Perks of Being a Wallflower is he sees things that no one else sees, but he doesn't make the connection between them. For example, he'll see someone burn their mouth eating a hot grilled cheese, and then also know that they love grilled cheese. But he never understood that they burned themselves on that grilled cheese because they loved it so much. Let's not leave all the people watching to people like Charlie, and let's have some more insightful characters. Okay, so when you hear me say this topic, you're going to tell yourself, oh my god, that's a super common idea. This guy's dumb. But hear me out before you have this aneurysm of yours. Friendship is prevalent in a lot of literature, but it's rarely the focus of the story. We get a lot of these side characters that are the main character's friends, but that's really all they are. It's like their whole existence is just them having one personality and to follow our main person around. I want a book that focuses on what being friends is really about, whether that's loyalty or just being supportive or betrayal. Just give me something that feels legitimate. I think friendships are often overlooked by like themes of families and romantic relationships often. And while I understand why that is, I think we're kind of downplaying the importance of what friendship really is. I would even go as far to say that friendship can play a bigger part in someone's life than their own family or significant other. So the question becomes, why haven't we talked about this? And why is it that when we do choose to talk about it, it seems super half-assed? I've been told I should read Gabrielle Zevin's book, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Apparently, it gives a very bittersweet representation of what friendship is really like, which is also why I plan to read it for an upcoming video. I think I just want this topic to be covered more because I want to show the importance of how a complete stranger can be someone you care and love like they are family. This next one I have here is a little more unique because I think the people who aren't writing this person because they think it's poor character writing. What I'm referring to are good people. Not that they don't have a flaw or anything, that they're just generally kind and thoughtful. I'm just sick of picking up these books where the character I'm reading about is always lacking some self-awareness of how they're treating other people. Or this is even worse to me, is when they are a nice person throughout most of the book, and then randomly, just to further the plot, they make this person do a completely out-of-pocket thing and just ruin their entire personality. They'll be a person who's completely selfless in every way, and then randomly out of left field, they make him do the most heinous, selfish act. And it's what? I don't think there's anything wrong with making a character altruistic. And I don't think it means they immediately lack any depth. That's like eating mac and cheese and saying the ratio of mac and or cheese is too good. And then you add an enormous amount of more cheese powder and then you go perfect. I don't know why I'm making so many food analogies in this video, but stick with me. Not too long ago, I read the book A Long Way from a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and I found myself loving how supportive the characters were to each other. They still had personal issues they were dealing with, but they never let that get in the way of how much they cared about one another. There's good people that exist in the world, so there's no reason to have every character to have some damning character flaw. Alright, I'm on my last idea that I want to see more in books. I want to see more characters in books who deal with depression in a almost cynical comedic way. This whole thought came from The Fault in Our Stars, Hazel Grace's character, and if you've read it, you're going to know what I'm talking about. She basically goes through her whole life depressed with a cancer diagnosis, but she goes through it in a way where she's almost making fun of it. She'll point out the horrible stuff in the world and then make a joke about it. Okay, so for example, she says, Augustus asked if I wanted to go with him to a support group, but I really was tired from a busy day of having cancer, so I ended up passing. I find this way of coping with depression a lot more relatable, and it's also just enjoyable from the reader's perspective. I read a lot of books that tend to deal with mental health often, and I find this way of dealing with depression a lot more refreshing in these books than just having the typical melancholy feel to it. Now, I wouldn't want this to overflow the book market, and become some trope that you see in every other book. It just would be nice to see characters deal with mental health issues in other ways that isn't just sulking the whole time. Well, that's all I have for you folks. If you have any book recommendations that you feel fit some of these topics or ideas, please put them down in the comments. I would love to check them out and see what I've been missing. As always, I hope you have fun reading out there, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. Farewell.